Hi everybody, welcome to the show. I am your host Misty Doan from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I am really excited about the project and some fun new things that I get to share with you today. So I don't know if you have seen, but we released a really great new series, and I wanted to share first a little teaser of that, so check this out.
I'm Laura Pyland of Slice of Pie Quilts, and I'm the new host of the Creating for Kids series. The nursery series is really great because there's 6 projects and you can use any fabric you want, so it's a great way to customize your nursery to get any look that you like. I look forward to seeing all the projects on the hashtag MSQCKids, and I can't wait to see what everyone makes.
Isn't that so fun? We're so thrilled to have a new Kids and Baby series, and Laura Pyland was kind enough to join us. She's from Slice of Pie Quilts. She's got some great creative ideas to share with you. And so be sure to check out the wonderful series that's out now on our channel, and you can catch a link to it below as well. So I love making projects with purpose, and so baby quilts obviously fall into that category. It's so fun to celebrate a new arrival. But I was talking with Liz, and one of the things that we were discussing is how often when a new baby arrives, we sort of forget about the siblings that are maybe there already. And so I wanted to come up with a great way to make a project for baby and also have something in hand to give to big brother or big sister. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. This quilt behind me is this great Colorful Friends panel quilt kit. It's by Crayola for Riley Blake, and you can see it's just so adorable. And really, I don't think a baby quilt gets any easier than this. It looks like you've got this great little sashing that you've worked hard on in the middle, but the whole center of this is actually this adorable panel that's included in here. And then the first border is just 2.5-inch strips, and the outer border is just 5.5-inch strips. So it goes together so quick, and the kit includes everything that you see on the front. So it has your panel, your inner border, your outer border, and your binding. So all you're gonna need for that is your backing fabric, which let me show you this cute little print, also from the collection. Isn't that adorable? I just love it. It's so, so cute. And so this is just as easy as that. I didn't feel like you needed a tutorial to make it since it is so simple, but be sure to pick up the kit. It includes your pattern and walks you through step by step how to make this adorable quilt that's hanging behind me. But once you have a simple baby quilt done, then let's work on a project that is great for brothers and sisters. And I don't know about you guys, but my kiddos love having fun pillowcases. And so I'm using the same collection as the quilt behind me for this, you can see here. But this is a great opportunity to think about what brother or sister might love and pick a fabric that is specific to them. And so what you're going to need is a 9-inch strip for the cuff of your pillowcase and a 27-inch strip, by both of these by the width of fabric, for the body of your pillowcase. So just pick, 2 fabrics that are going to coordinate and be something fun to give to big brother or big sister. And let me show you how we're going to do this, because I love this method because there's going to be no raw edges. We're going to walk you through a basic French seam and show you how to do this. So you can see here, I have my 9-inch strip of the green cut and ready to go. I'm just going to go ahead and measure over and trim off my selvage. And so I'm going to measure over 21 inches. Make sure that's nice and straight and trim this off. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the fabric for the body of my pillow. We can open this up. Here is my selvage side. Make sure my fold is nice and straight, that you don't have any creases or anything going on before you do this. And then we will also measure over to 21 inches on this one. There we go. There's our little bit of waste. You can throw that in the scrap bin. So next, I want to open up my fabric, just like so. So I'm going to start by lining up these ends along one side. And because I've trimmed them down, they should be the exact same length. If they're not though, that's easy to go back and trim at the end and just square that off. And then I'm going to gently roll up this side into a tube. And you guys might have seen Jenny do this before. We've made quite a few of these tube style pillowcases. And we are just going to pin all of our layers together and make sure that we don't have the bulk that we just rolled up in our way. So let me grab my pins. Whoops, and a scrap of fabric came along too. There we go. We just want to make sure that's lined up nice and neat. And then we'll put a few pins in here to hold everything together. And just take your time as you work your way across. Make sure all those layers are lined up neatly. And we'll come back this other direction. And I love this trick because you'll see once we stitch this down, it's going to enclose our seam. So the raw edges are going to be tucked inside. A couple more pins here, and we'll be ready to get stitching. One more on the end. Ta-da! All right. So now we've got that all pinned in place. We can take this to the machine. Let me move my pins out of the way so you guys can see here. And just going right along that edge, we're going to sew our 1/4 inch seam. And you do want to watch, obviously you don't ever want to sew over a pin. I've given myself plenty of room so that the pin is on the other side of my presser foot, and I can just sew down the side. I've got one little spot up here where it kind of shifted, so when I get down here, I'm actually going to pull this pin out and let the fabric slide back over where it needs to be. Make sure we've got all our layers. Sometimes they like to shift, so just take your time. And if you get to a point where you're not happy with it, you can just readjust, which is what I'm doing right here. This one wants to poke out the top, but I feel good about where I have my cuff fabric lined up. And so maybe I just have a wonky cut there. And so I'm just kind of gonna go with that and follow the green fabric as my guide. As you can see, it's coming back to where it needs to be down here. Sometimes you just have to go with the flow. There we go. Now we're all lined up again. Getting to the edge here. All right, so I've got a few pins left in here. We'll be sure and pull those out first. And then we're just going to reach in and we can pull out our fabric. Just like so, from inside the tube. And as we do this, we're going to turn our tube right side out. This got to do a little bit of maneuvering, but this is pretty magical once we get it all turned. There it goes. There we go. And now you can see how that top edge has no raw edges. Our seam is enclosed inside of this tube that we sewed. So we're going to press this so it's nice and flat and we don't have any seams poking through. This is a great time if you have any little threads or something that might have stuck through that seam. You can trim those off. I just like to roll that cuff back, make sure it's laying nice and flat, press it all the way across the edge. There we go. And then I'm going to turn it over and press from the other side too, because you can see here by just pressing on the top, I've got some little folds that snuck in there, and I don't want that to happen. I want it to be really flat all the way across. So now I'm really creasing the top as well, now that I know I've got the front and the back where I want it to go, just working my way down. There we go. You do want to take your time and press really well when you're doing this, because you just don't want to have those tucks get in your way. You can see on this end, I ended up with it being just a little bit off, so I'm going to fold this and straighten up this edge. This is no big deal. We're just going to match up the end with the crease that we just folded, and we can fold this straight up. Make sure we're nice and straight on our mat, and then just trim that up even. This project is forgiving enough that this is not going to matter one bit. And now I don't have to worry about having wonky seams or anything like that. Okay, so now, like I mentioned, we're going to do a very basic French seam so that we have no raw edges anywhere on this. If you have a serger, you could absolutely just serge your edge and do a typical finish where you would just fold right sides together and stitch on your two sides. But because we don't have a serger here on set, let's talk about how you do a French seam. So we're actually going to put this wrong sides together, just the way that we want it to finish up. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam along this long side and along the bottom edge. And this is an opportunity if you've ever heard of a scant 1/4 inch, which means it's just a little bit skinnier than that full 1/4, so that your stitch line, your thread, actually takes up the rest of that 1/4 inch measurement. This would be a great place to use it, because we're actually going to turn this out and do a wider set of stitches. But you can make it however big or as small as you want, as long as you know the next go around we're going to have to make it a little bigger. So now I'm just going to make sure my cuff is all lined up. We're going to back stitch here at the beginning. Zoom down the side. Want to shift just a little bit, that's okay. All right, and then we're going to go down the bottom edge. Exact same thing. Back stitch. All right, so we've got that first line of stitching done on our two sides. And so this is a place where if you have a bunch of threads, you can see here I've got quite a few threads. You might want to go back and trim that up, because when we do our second line of stitching, it's going to be really easy to catch that in there. And then we might not have as clean of a finish as we want. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim off those threads with my rotary cutter so I'm not messing with them. Oops, trim off that one down there. Let's look up on this side as well. And then I'm also going to trim this little corner right here. And you can see I don't want to get close to where the stitch lines are actually crossing. I'm just going to cut off the bulk of this corner. So I'm just going to kind of slide my ruler out there and make sure that I'm nowhere near the stitch line. And then I can look along here. I've got just a few little spots where I can go ahead and trim off some threads just to make it easier on myself. Okay, so now once that is done, we are going to turn this wrong sides out, just like so. We're going to come back and we're going to do that second line of stitching. And so this is where you can either do maybe a 3/8 inch seam allowance or a 1/2 inch seam allowance. But before you do that, you're going to want to press this, because again, you don't want it to be puckered. You don't want to catch too much fabric or too little fabric and not have this lay nice. So we're going to go back and press these edges just to make it easier to work with. And again, I like to just start at the top, and I just use my fingers here to kind of roll that fabric out to make sure I'm getting it as smooth as possible. There we go. Just go a little bit at a time, kind of work it ahead as we go. There we go, and you can see because we trimmed off that bulk, it makes the corner turn much nicer. And then we want to do the same thing and press along the bottom edge as well. Isn't this such cute fabric? Even on the wrong side, I can see those little hippos and elephants. I just love it so much. Get all the way over here. Make sure I get the corner on this side turned really well too. There we go. Alrighty. There we go. So now, I don't know if you can see this through or not, but when I'm looking at it with my eyes, I can see and I can certainly feel the original seam that we took. And so I like to just kind of take my ruler and feel about where that ends up and try and eyeball about how wide I need to do my next line of stitching, because there's really no need to make this harder on ourselves than it needs to be. So I'm looking down here and my seam gets a little wide down here. So I think if I do a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around, I'm not going to have any trouble and I'll be able to enclose those raw edges. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start on this side, and my machine has a 1/2 inch mark. If yours doesn't, you could just use some masking tape or something like that. So I'm just going to use that 1/2 inch mark as my guide. And because this is our final seam, this is where you really want to make sure you do some back stitching at the beginning and the end. going to actually pivot instead of sewing off the end there. And continue down this side. Make sure our bottom edge is going to line up nicely because that's going to be that finished edge that everybody sees. And back stitch. There's lots of pillow fights going on. You want to make sure this pillow is going to hold up for that. And so now, as you can see, there's that second set of stitching that we've done. And when we open this up, we've enclosed that first line, and we have no raw edges anywhere on this pillowcase, which means it's super washable, super kid-friendly, and it's ready to go, and you've got a great gift for baby and for big brother or sister. So I hope you guys enjoyed this project. I hope it inspired you. Be sure to label your quilts that you give, even for baby quilts. It's great to keep track of that history. And again, this is a really cute kit and fabric collection from Colorful Friends by Crayola for Riley Blake. And be sure to check out the Kids and Baby series that we have here at Missouri Star. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you next time.